My husband's ex-wife and daughter returned, hoping to claim the family home's inheritance after we made our will, but what we uncovered in court was far more shocking than we could have imagined. I'm a 45-year-old woman, and I've been happily married to Michael, 50, for 10 years. We first met in our early 30s at an art gallery. We were both admiring the same painting, and a conversation sparked between us. It felt like an instant connection, one of those rare moments where you feel as if you've known someone your whole life. We went on our first date, and as we got to know each other, I realized how much we had in common. I come from a working-class family, the eldest of 3 children. Growing up, we didn't have much, but we made do. Treats like fast food were a luxury, reserved only for birthdays. My father instilled in us a strong work ethic, and I worked hard to put myself through college. By the time I graduated, I had no student debt, thanks to some modeling gigs I picked up on the side. I'd worked my way up at my job, and I was a junior associate. Michael, on the other hand, had a very different upbringing. His family was well off. His father held a good job with a solid salary and retirement benefits, so money was never a concern. Michael's college tuition was covered, and he secured an internship through his father's connections. He worked hard to make his own name at the company, proving his dedication and talent. Despite our contrasting backgrounds, Michael and I bonded over our shared love for art and music. It was these common interests that drew us together, and before long, we fell in love. Michael had a 17-year-old daughter from his previous marriage. Candace, however, never really warmed to me. She seemed to hold me responsible for the end of her parents' marriage. Even though our relationship began long after Michael's divorce was final, I gave her space, hoping she would come around with time. For context, Michael's marriage to Amelia, his ex-wife, was short-lived. They were college sweethearts, married in their early 20s, but things quickly soured. Amelia was a stay-at-home mom while Michael worked long hours to support them. One day, Michael returned early from a work trip, only to catch Amelia in bed with his best friend, Tom. It was a devastating betrayal, losing both his wife and his closest friend in the same moment. The shock left him shattered, and he made the difficult decision to file for divorce. The divorce was ugly, primarily because Amelia fought bitterly to keep their house, even though it legally belonged to Michael. But the conflict didn't stop there. They also went through a painful custody battle over Candace. Because of Amelia's infidelity, the judge ruled that she wouldn't get the house, but both parents were granted shared custody of Candace, ensuring she would maintain a relationship with both of them. Amelia's resentment over not securing the family home festered over the years, and she began manipulating Candace's feelings, turning her against her father. Michael, on the other hand, chose not to reveal the painful details of his divorce to Candace, wanting to shield her from the trauma of their past. I only learned about the depth of this when Michael and I began dating. He wanted to be completely transparent with me, and I appreciated his honesty. One time, Michael invited Candace to join us on a trip to Africa, hoping it would be an opportunity to bond. I was hopeful, thinking it might be a turning point for our relationship. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. During the trip, Candace was constantly irritable and would lash out, often for no reason. If I got too close to Michael, she would angrily call me a gold digger. Michael would reprimand her, but she would just smirk, making it clear she wasn't ready to accept me in her life. I understood that the situation with his ex-wife and daughter was complicated, but the love Michael and I shared was strong, and I was willing to work through the challenges. After a whirlwind romance, we got married in a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family. Amelia and Candace didn't attend. Despite our invitation, life was great at first. We traveled the world while maintaining our careers. I loved my job and had no intention of giving it up. While Amelia had moved in with Tom after their divorce, Candace was living in her own apartment, thanks to Michael's financial support, and working as a social media executive. 3 years into our marriage, we were thrilled to welcome our son. However, my pregnancy was difficult, and it became even harder when Candace came to visit. She made cruel comments about my appearance, calling me a fat cow when Michael wasn't around. This upset me deeply, and after I shared my concerns with him, Michael decided that Candace would no longer visit our home. Instead, they began meeting at cafes to avoid further tension. When our son Nick was born, our joy was immeasurable. Though we were in a stable place, I was determined to keep working. We hired a babysitter to care for Nick when my maternity leave ended, and I eagerly returned to my career. I valued my financial independence and the ability to continue pursuing my passions. However, Candace's issues with me seemed to escalate after Nick came into our lives. At family gatherings, she began targeting him, trying to bully our innocent little boy. It broke my heart to see him in tears, seeking comfort from us. While I understood her hatred toward me, I could never allow her to take it out on Nick. As a result, I banned Candace from coming to our home and stopped hosting family events altogether. This brings us to the current issue. As we grew older, Michael and I knew it was time to plan for the future. We created a will to ensure our affairs were in order. Since Michael had already provided Candace with a flat, we decided to leave the family home to our son, Nick. Michael's remaining assets, his savings and investments, would go to Candace. I, in turn, planned to leave my own assets to Nick to ensure he would be well taken care of. We both felt this was the best way to secure our family's future. When Amelia and Candace learned of our will, all hell broke loose. I'm not sure if Michael accidentally mentioned it or if his parents did, but it didn't take long for them to react. Amelia called Michael, demanding that she and Candace were entitled to the house because she had been married to him first. Michael stood firm, reiterating that he had already supported Candace throughout her life, covering her child support, college expenses, and even buying her an apartment. He assured her that Candace would be well provided for in the future, but the house was going to Nick. This only fueled Amelia's anger. She sent me a lengthy text message, hurling every insult imaginable at me. I showed Michael the text from Amelia, and he immediately asked me not to engage with her any further. He insisted I block her right away. The next day, Candace showed up at our doorstep, visibly upset. It was clear she wanted to talk about the will, not wanting her to create a scene in front of our son. I quickly arranged for my parents to pick him up. Once it was just the three of us, Candace made her intentions clear. She demanded that I give up the property, claiming that, as Michael's firstborn, she was entitled to the house. I felt a wave of irritation but chose to remain quiet, allowing Michael to handle the situation. He calmly explained that he had always provided for her throughout her life and that, while he would be leaving her his savings, he was committed to securing my future and our son's. Since we were married, leaving the family home to us was his way of ensuring our well-being. Candace didn't back down. She shifted her focus to me, demanding that I do the right thing. I calmly expressed my support for my husband's decision, which only seemed to infuriate her. She raised her voice, threatening to take me to court. I didn't want the situation to escalate further, so I asked her to leave. As expected, a few weeks later, I received a legal notice. Candace and Amelia were suing me over the property. They accused me of marrying Michael for his money and manipulating him into taking the family home from them. Michael and I consulted with our lawyer, who assured us that Candace and Amelia didn't have strong legal grounds for their claims. However, despite the legal reassurance, I couldn't help but worry, particularly because I didn't want our son to be dragged into this family drama. As the court date neared, the tension in our home grew unbearable. In court, Amelia's lawyer was relentless, arguing that Michael needed to prioritize his firstborn, Candace, above all else. They pushed for a full trial to determine the property's rightful owner. Since we lived in Colorado, the legal system required a jury trial, adding even more complexity to the situation. The pressure was mounting for both of us. Amelia's lawyer resorted to underhanded tactics, dredging up our past in an attempt to sway the jury. Our lawyer was doing his best to counter their arguments, but the whole experience was incredibly stressful. Then, out of the blue, we received an unexpected call from Tom, Michael's former best friend. He insisted on meeting us at home. After the painful discovery of Tom's affair with Amelia, Michael had cut all ties with him. He didn't want to meet him, but I convinced him to listen, thinking that perhaps Tom's involvement could help us resolve the situation sooner. When Tom came over to our house, we were half expecting it to be yet another attempt by the opposing lawyer to undermine our case, but to our surprise, Tom had a different purpose for his visit. He was here to confess something that would be incredibly hard for Michael to hear. Michael sat still, his face unreadable, as Tom began revealing a shocking truth. He confessed that he and Amelia had been seeing each other behind Michael's back for a long time, even before Amelia became pregnant. I could barely breathe as Tom continued, dropping a bombshell none of us had expected. He claimed that when Amelia found out she was pregnant, she had confided in him that she believed the child might actually be his, but because Michael was more financially stable, she had chosen to stay in the marriage, keeping the truth hidden. Tom had pleaded with her to tell Michael the truth, but she had refused. insisting on keeping the secret. I was in disbelief. The audacity of Amelia to not only keep such a monumental secret but also fight us over the property, after all these years of deceit, was staggering. Tom explained that he had kept quiet for so long because he believed that Amelia truly loved him. However, seeing the pain Michael and I were enduring because of the court battle made him finally realize who she really was. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face, and he begged Michael for forgiveness. Michael remained silent, still in shock. I was filled with a mix of anger and frustration, especially seeing my husband in such emotional turmoil. He had believed Candace was his daughter all these years, and now he was being told it was all a lie. In the past, I had stayed silent whenever Amelia or Candace were rude to me, hoping to maintain peace, but now that the truth was out, there was no reason to pretend anymore. I immediately contacted our lawyer and shared Tom's confession. Our lawyer advised us that in order for this new information to hold up in court, we would need solid evidence, preferably a DNA test, so we decided to invite Candace over for dinner under the pretense of wanting to talk. Our plan was simple: discreetly collect a glass or utensil she had used for a DNA test to strengthen our case. Candace agreed to come over, though she was clearly skeptical. Her behavior was as rude as ever. She continued to belittle me and my son, taunting me that she and her mother would win the case and I would soon lose everything. I ignored her comments, hoping this would be the last time we'd need to endure such hostility. After she left, we immediately contacted our lawyer, who arranged to collect a sample from Candace to conduct the DNA test. On the day we were due to appear in court, we received confirmation that Tom's confession was true. Candace was not Michael's daughter, but Tom's. A wave of relief washed over me, but at the same time, I felt for Michael. He had been dragged through this turmoil for years because of Amelia's lies and manipulation. I informed our lawyer that I was ready to take the stand and tell our side of the story. He agreed, knowing that this would be the best way to reveal the truth. As I stepped onto the witness stand, I was filled with a mixture of emotions: anger at Amelia for her deceit, sympathy for Michael, and determination to protect our family's future. I began by answering our lawyer's questions, recounting my background, my career, and how I had worked hard to build a life for myself, even after getting married. I also shared the emotional abuse I had endured at the hands of both Amelia and Candace over the years, providing evidence through screenshots and documentation. I spoke about how Candace had never accepted me from the very beginning and had even refused to attend our wedding. Since the birth of our son, Candace had been verbally abusive towards him as well. Then, I dropped the bombshell. I told the jury about Tom's confession and how we had discovered the truth about Candace's paternity. I revealed how Amelia had hidden this secret for so long, and how her lies had caused so much pain for our family. Candace stared at me, her expression one of disbelief, and I watched her exchange heated whispers with her lawyer. Our lawyer then presented the DNA test results, which proved everything I had said. The truth was now undeniable. I watched Amelia's face with a sense of satisfaction as the truth about her past finally hit her. Candace, on the other hand, looked like the floor had just been ripped out from under her, her world crumbling the same way ours had when we first learned the truth. The courtroom was filled with raw emotions. Now that everything was laid bare, there was nothing left for Amelia and Candace to stand on. Amelia appeared defeated, while Candace, who had once been so confident in her victory, was now struggling with the fallout from her mother's lies. Their lawyer no longer had any ground to fight on. The jury didn't take long to deliberate. When the judge read the verdict, it was clear: the inheritance, including the family home, was ours, just as Michael had intended. The jury ruled that Candace and Amelia had no legitimate claim to the property. Since the verdict, we've been met with mixed reactions from our family and friends. Most understand our side and agree that we did what was right, but some have criticized us, saying it was cruel to reveal the truth in court and shatter Candace's life. So here I am, asking for your thoughts. Was I wrong for refusing to give up the property to my stepdaughter and for revealing everything in court, rather than speaking to her personally? Update 1. It's been 3 days since my last post, and I've read through all your comments. Many of you suggested that Candace might have known about her mother's lies before, but after seeing her face in court when the DNA test results were revealed, I can confidently say she didn't. Winning the case has lifted such a heavy weight off my shoulders. I'm trying not to dwell on the negative reactions from certain relatives who think we did something wrong. We didn't ask for this fight. Amelia and Candace dragged us into it. We just uncovered the truth. While I'm at peace with the outcome, My main concern now is Michael. He's still reeling from the shock of discovering the truth about Candace's birth father. His whole world has been turned upside down, and he's struggling to eat or sleep. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for him to come to terms with it. The betrayal he felt from Amelia, coupled with the revelation that Tom was not only her ex-husband's lover but also the father of his first child, is something he's still trying to process. I've suggested therapy to him, and he's agreed to start next week. Update 2. It's been a month since I last posted, and while things have calmed down, Michael is still in the process of healing. He's been going to therapy regularly, and although it's a slow journey, I can see some progress. Last week, unexpectedly, Candace reached out to us. I honestly didn't think she would ever want to speak to us again after everything that happened. She apologized for what we'd gone through, but I wasn't sure if it was genuine or if she was just reacting to the fallout from her mother's actions. I didn't push her. Candace admitted that she'd always been jealous of me, believing I had taken her father away. She told me she hated me, something I had suspected for a long time. She had thought her father was the one who cheated, but when the truth came out in court, she realized she'd been living a lie her whole life. She begged Michael not to cut her out of his life, and he reassured her that he would always be her father, no matter who her birth father was. She broke down in tears, as though she had needed that confirmation all along. Candace also apologized to me for how she had treated me and hoped that I could forgive her one day. I wasn't ready to pretend everything was fine between us. It wasn't. It will take time before I can be in the same room with her again. In the meantime, I've been focusing on our family and my son. I wasn't able to spend much time with him during the trial, so I've planned a secret family vacation to give us a chance to relax and recharge. Hopefully, this getaway will help us all heal a little. I'll post another update if something significant happens. Update 3. 3 months have passed since my last update, and things have been relatively calm. But last week, Amelia showed up at our doorstep. I was torn about letting her in, but I was concerned about the neighbors hearing any potential shouting, so we reluctantly let her inside. We made it clear that if she caused any trouble, we would call the police. She explained that Tom had decided to leave her and asked her to move out of his house by the end of the month. She was in tears, saying that he didn't want to marry her anymore after seeing what she had done to Michael and me. With nowhere else to go, she wanted to move in with Candace, but Candace had strongly opposed the idea. We learned that Candace had cut all contact with her mother since the trial, accusing her of manipulating her. Amelia was now here, hoping we would talk to Candace and convince her to let her move in. Before I could say anything, Michael lost his temper for the first time. He firmly told Amelia that the apartment he had purchased was for Candace, and it was up to her whether or not to let her mother stay there. He reminded her that she had never even apologized for cheating on him, and now she expected us to help her out. He said he was glad Tom had seen through her lies and was leaving her. Amelia tried to justify her actions, claiming that she feared being thrown out while pregnant, but I couldn't listen to her excuses anymore, so I asked her to leave. We had given her a fair chance to explain herself, and I saw no point in prolonging the conversation. After she left, Michael reached out to Candace to warn her that her mother might try to pressure her into letting her stay. He emphasized that if she allowed Amelia in, there would be no way to make her leave. Candace assured him that she would not let that happen. She planned to change the locks to prevent Amelia from entering and was going to make it clear that she was no longer welcome. As for me, I've had enough of this drama. Michael and I have been discussing the possibility of selling our family home and moving to another state to escape the turmoil. For the sake of our son and our marriage, we believe it's time to start fresh. Although it's a difficult decision, Michael agrees, especially after Amelia's recent visit. We need to put some distance between us and her, given the uncertainty of whether she will ever leave us in peace. Moving out of this city seems like the best choice. Michael's job can be done remotely, and I'm open to finding a new job if it means we can escape this toxicity. We'll begin the process of selling our home next month, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be starting anew in a place where we can rebuild our lives.